Attitude is everything. Change your attitude, and you change your life. By Jeff Keller. Introduction. The night that changed my life. The greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind. In 1980, I graduated from law school and thought I'd be a lawyer for the rest of my life. After all, that's what I'd wanted to do since my early teenage years. At first, everything went according to plan. After lots of studying that summer, I passed the bar examination and was admitted to practice law in New York. My personal life was also on the upswing. In early 1981, I married Dolores, a law school classmate. I was on my way to much success and happiness, or so I thought. But after practicing law for a few years, I realized I wasn't happy at all. Sure, there were some things I liked about being a lawyer. I enjoyed helping people resolve their disputes, especially when I could save them the agony of lengthy court proceedings. Yet there were so many things about being an attorney that I disliked, and that just seemed to drain the life out of me. Mounds and mounds of tedious paperwork and motions to be filed, constant delays and postponements. It was not uncommon for a trial to be postponed 10 times. I dreaded going to work. I continued to grind out the work, but grew more and more dissatisfied as an attorney. I was frustrated and very depressed. To put it bluntly, I didn't like my life, and saw no way that things were going to improve. Have you ever had a job where you dreaded going to work most days? Where you felt the weight of the world on your shoulders each day? Well, that's how I felt. I was literally hunched over, and in pain, both physically and emotionally. I looked much older than my years. I began to get headaches all the time, and my stomach was constantly churning. Fearing that I had some serious health problem, I saw some doctors, and they ordered a battery of tests. Every test came back with the same result. They couldn't find anything physically wrong with me. One of the doctors suggested that I take Maalox to calm my upset stomach. Spiritually, I was dead. Nothing in my life had much meaning. This day-to-day drudgery was also affecting my appearance. Although I was in my late 20s, I looked like I was 40. In the early part of 1985, shortly after I had turned 30 years old, I was burned out. And one particular evening, while sitting alone in my den, I knew that something had to change. Not knowing what to do, I simply said out loud, "There's got to be more to my life than this. There's got to be more than this misery and unhappiness. You are not what you think you are, but what you think you are." Part 1. Success begins in the mind. Success is a state of mind. If you want success, start thinking of yourself as a success. Lesson 1. Your attitude is your window to the world. Better keep yourself clean and bright. You are the window through which you must see the world. It was just after 1 p.m. and Sarah was getting hungry. She had put in a few productive hours of work at her desk and decided to get a bite to eat at a nearby coffee shop. A few minutes later, Sam walked into the coffee shop. He, too, was on his lunch break. Sam sat down at a table a few feet away from Sarah. The same waitress served Sarah and Sam that afternoon. Each customer waited about the same amount of time before the waitress took the order. Each of them received their meal around the same time. Each of them was served well-prepared, wholesome food. And each waited the same amount of time for the waitress to deliver the check. But that's where the similarities ended. Sarah had walked into the coffee shop with a smile, a spring in her step, and a very positive outlook on the world. It was plain for everyone to see. Her body language and her posture reflected her optimism. Sarah had a delightful lunch, exchanged some pleasant conversation with the waitress, and went back to work with a recharged battery. Sam, on the other hand, had entered the coffee shop with a scowl on his face. He looked like he'd been sucking on sour pickles all morning. He was hunched over and tense. His body language cried out, "Stay away from me!" He was annoyed when the waitress didn't take his order immediately. He was annoyed at how long it took for his meal to arrive. He complained about the food, and was furious when he didn't get his check right away. Why did Sarah and Sam have such different experiences in the coffee shop? Remember that each was treated in exactly the same way. It comes down to this. Sarah sees the world with a positive attitude. Sam sees the world with a negative attitude. Attitudes are a secret power working 24 hours a day for good or bad. A definition of attitude. Think of your attitude as the mental filter through which you experience the world. Some people see the world through the filter of optimism, the glass being half full, while others see life through a filter of pessimism, the glass being half empty. Let me give you some examples to explain the difference between a positive attitude and a negative attitude. The person with the negative attitude thinks, "I can't." The person with the positive attitude thinks, "I can." The person with the negative attitude dwells on problems. The person with the positive attitude concentrates on solutions. The person with the negative attitude finds fault with others. The person with the positive attitude looks for the good in others. The person with the negative attitude focuses on what's missing. The person with the positive attitude counts his or her blessings. The person with the negative attitude sees limitations. The person with the positive attitude sees possibilities. I could go on and on with examples, but I'm sure you get the idea. When I talk to audiences about attitude, I often like to use word pictures. They help people to understand and remember what I said. Let me paint this picture for you. Your attitude is your window to the world. You can't always control circumstances, but you can control your own thoughts. Everyone starts with a clean mental window. Let's take a few moments to discuss why I say that your attitude is your window to the world. We all start out in life with a good attitude. Or should I say, a clean mental window. Just watch young children. They're always laughing and giggling. They have a sunny disposition. They love to explore new things. Consider the attitude of a child who's learning to walk. When he stumbles and falls down, what does he do? I'll tell you what he doesn't do. He doesn't frown or blame the carpet. He doesn't point fingers at his mother or father for giving him lousy instructions. He doesn't quit. Oh no. He smiles, gets up again, and makes another attempt. And another. He keeps going for weeks and weeks with a positive attitude until he gets it right. His window is squeaky clean, and he feels like he can conquer the world. But as you know, there comes a point where life starts throwing some dirt at our windows. And here's what happens. Our windows get splattered by criticism from parents and teachers. Our windows get smudged by ridicule from peers. Our windows get smeared by rejection. Our windows get soiled by disappointments. Our windows get clouded by doubt. The problem is, the dirt keeps building up, and all too many people do nothing about it. They continue to go through life with a filthy window. They lose their enthusiasm. They get frustrated and depressed. And most tragically, they give up on their dreams, all because they failed to clean their attitude window. That's the road I was traveling down. I had a dirty window when I was an attorney. And the longer I stayed in that field, the filthier my window got. I saw no possibilities. How could I? My window was splattered with the mud of negativity. Wash your window. But then, by the grace of God, I learned that all I had to do was clean off my window. I had to improve my attitude so I could see the world clearly again. After I removed the grime from my window, a whole new world opened up for me. The frustration and depression lifted. I had more confidence. For the first time in many years, I could see the magnificent possibilities that life had to offer. And I was able to make a career transition and do work that I absolutely love. When you really think about it, I'm in the business of helping people to clean off their windows, to get a better attitude. Do you see what I mean when I say that attitude is your window to the world? Can you appreciate how your attitude affects the way you see everything in your life? More importantly, are you beginning to see those areas where your window needs to be washed? You control your attitude. It's your job to keep your window clean. Sure, I can give you a little encouragement, and other people can encourage you too. But in the end, nobody else can do it for you. There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. You see, you always have a choice. You can leave the filth on your window and look at life through a smeared glass. But there are consequences to that approach, and they're not very pretty. You'll go through life negative and frustrated. You'll be unhappy. You'll achieve only a fraction of what you're capable of achieving. There's a better way. When you choose to take out your squeegee and clean your window, life will be brighter and sunnier. You'll be healthier and happier. You'll set some ambitious goals and begin to achieve them. Your dreams will come alive again. William Shakespeare. Still doubting whether you really have the power to change your attitude? Perhaps you're thinking, Jeff, that's easy for you to say. Your attitude wouldn't be so good if you had my problems. Granted, some really devastating things may have happened to you. You may have endured much suffering. Perhaps you're going through some tough times right now. But even under the worst circumstances, I still contend that you have the power to choose your attitude. I'm not saying it's easy, but the fact remains, the choice is yours. Let me tell you about a man who is well qualified to speak on the subject of attitude. His name is Dr. Viktor Frankl, and he went through hell on earth, and managed not only to survive, but to inspire millions of people. You see, Viktor Frankl endured years of horror as a prisoner in the Nazi death camps. To make matters worse, his father, mother, brother, and his wife died in camps or were killed in gas chambers. Every day, Frankl and the other prisoners suffered from hunger, cold, and brutality. Can a person control his or her attitude in a situation like that? Here's what Dr. Frankl had to say about the importance of attitude in his best-selling book, Man's Search for Meaning. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Even though conditions such as lack of sleep, insufficient food, and various mental stresses may suggest that the inmates were bound to react in certain ways, in the final analysis, it becomes clear that the sort of person the prisoner became was the result of an inner decision, and not the result of camp influences alone. Now, if Dr. Frankl and the other prisoners had the ability to choose their attitudes in the face of such unspeakable suffering, who are we to claim that we cannot take control of our attitudes? As Hugh Downs has said, a happy person is not a person in a certain set of circumstances, but rather a person with a certain set of attitudes. That's a powerful statement, and it's the truth. When it's all said and done, you and you alone control your attitude. A happy person is not a person in a certain set of circumstances, but rather a person with a certain set of attitudes. Attitude and success. Okay, let's say you clean off your window and develop a positive attitude. You're smiling. You sit home and think positive thoughts. Will that alone lead you to outrageous success and the realization of your fondest dreams? No, it won't. Because there's more to success than just having a great attitude. To maximize your potential and achieve your goals, you need to apply certain time-honored principles of success that have helped millions of people to achieve extraordinary results. And they'll do the same for you. In the next 11 lessons of this book, I'll be taking you through these success principles, step by step. You'll learn about confronting your fears, overcoming adversity, harnessing the power of commitment, and much, much more. You'll get the information and inspiration you need to start living the life you've always dreamed about. Still, you may be wondering, what do these success principles have to do with attitude? In a word, everything. That's why I say attitude is everything. Without a positive attitude, you can't activate the other principles. Your success in life begins and ends with your attitude. It's only when you clean your attitude window that the other success principles can shine through. If your window is smudged, only a fraction of the light of these principles can get through. Your success is limited, or even blocked. But when you learn to keep your attitude window clear, the light comes pouring in, and you can use these empowering principles to earn more money, have more satisfying relationships, increase your spiritual awareness, and reach your full potential. When you combine a positive attitude with the other success principles, you become unstoppable. Lesson 2. You're a human magnet! Whether you think you can, or think you can't, you're right. What's the key to success? Why do some people succeed while others fail? Earl Nightingale, the great success writer, broadcaster, and speaker, addressed this issue in his famous recorded message entitled, The Strangest Secret. In this program, he identified the key to success in just 6 words. Of course, he went on to explain it in more detail. But the foundation of his success secret is only 6 words. You'd like to know the 6 words, wouldn't you? Well, before I tell you the key to success, you might be surprised to learn that the same 6 words are also the key to failure. Are you ready for the key to success? Here it is. We become what we think about. On a gut level. Does that make sense to you? In his research on the subject, Nightingale found that all of the great writers, philosophers, and religious leaders have agreed that our thoughts determine our actions. Here are the observations of a few great thinkers on this very point. Napoleon Hill said, "What the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve." The Bible contains numerous references to thinking, including these. Nurture your mind with great thoughts. according to your faith, be it unto you. Matthew 9:29. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. If you can believe, all things are possible. Mark 9:23. Ralph Waldo Emerson put it this way: a man is what he thinks about all day long. Robert Collier offered this insight: there is nothing on earth you cannot have, once you have mentally accepted the fact that you can have it. And finally, there are the well-known words of Henry Ford, who said, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. How this principle works. Let's examine this concept a little further. That we become what we think about. Here's how it works. If you constantly think about a particular goal, then you'll take steps to move toward that goal. Dominant thoughts rule the day. The idea that we become what we think about has also been expressed as the law of dominant thought. This means that there's a power within each of us that propels us in the direction of our current dominant thoughts. The key word here is dominant. You can't expect positive results when you spend 10 seconds a day thinking positively, and the remaining 16 waking hours dwelling on negative outcomes. Here's the bottom line. A little positive thinking doesn't produce positive results. Just like a little bit of a diet doesn't work. It's like trying to lose weight by eating a healthy, low-calorie breakfast, and then pigging out on cake and ice cream for the rest of the day. The same is true of exercise. You can't do a few minutes of exercise once a week and expect to be physically fit. Look at positive thinking in the same way. A little bit just doesn't get the job done. Instead, you must take control of your mental activity and think positively throughout each and every day until it becomes a habit. Remember, it has to be your dominant thought pattern. Take a moment to consider your dominant thoughts in the major areas of your life. Are they serving you or holding you back? Attitude adjustment leads to real estate ownership. Let me share a personal example to demonstrate the power of our thoughts. In the 1970s and early 1980s, I observed many people in my area, Long Island, New York, who were making a lot of money by purchasing homes for investment purposes and renting them out. The homes were appreciating in value considerably each year. Sure, there were the usual headaches of having to deal with tenant problems, but the return these investors were getting was incredible. They can, because they think they can. Well, I kept thinking that I should start buying some investment homes, but I never took any action because I continued to doubt myself. My thinking was dominated by all of the things that could go wrong. Simply put, I had a lousy attitude. And with a negative attitude, is it any wonder that I never took the first step? However, after I started reading books and listening to tapes on the power of attitude and belief, I decided to change my attitude about real estate investment. In the summer of 1986, I decided that before the end of that year, I would purchase 2 investment homes. This time, I wasn't going to allow any negative thoughts to creep into my mind. For 6 months, I focused my thinking on one thing: owning 2 investment homes. I wrote down my goals several times each day and referred to them often. I believed, at the deepest level of my being, that I'd own 2 homes before the end of the year. In the evenings and on weekends, I went with real estate agents to look at homes. I personally visited about 100 homes and researched hundreds of others. Attitude versus action. I've been talking a lot about thinking, and you might be wondering where action fits into this process. It's true that you don't get results without action, but recognize that thought precedes action. I always knew the actions that I'd have to take to buy those investment properties, contact realtors, visit properties, review newspaper listings, and so on. But I never took the first step as long as I had a negative attitude. The instant I changed my attitude, I felt compelled to take action, and nothing was going to stop me. That's why a positive belief system is the starting point for the achievement of any goal. When your dominant belief is that you can achieve your goal, you begin taking the actions necessary to move in that direction. Your circumstances reflect what you've been thinking about. Face this fact: your beliefs brought you to where you are today, and your thinking from this point forward will take you to where you'll be in the future. In fact, your results in every area of your life reflect your deeply held thoughts about yourself. Consider your finances. What are your beliefs in this area? Are you constantly thinking about not having enough money? Dwell on that thought, a lack of funds, and you block the flow of money to you. And then, there's the matter of relationships. If you think that you don't deserve much, you attract friends and partners into your life who won't treat you very well. I'll bet you know someone who always seems to go out with the wrong person. In fact, The last 29 people they've gone out with were wrong for them. Do you think this is a mere coincidence? Oh no. There is a deeply held belief inside that individual that attracts these people into his or her life. And whether we're talking about finances, relationships, or careers, the fact remains. If your thoughts don't change, your results won't change. What we sincerely believe regarding ourselves is true for us. Change your thinking. Fortunately, there's exciting news. You can change your thoughts, thereby changing your results. Here's how. For starters, become aware of what you say to yourself all day. Each of us has an internal voice. In other words, we talk to ourselves. Too often, however, what we say is negative, critical, and self-limiting. Perhaps you find yourself thinking, I can't do this, or I always mess things up. These thoughts work against you. Instead, repeat to yourself that you can and will accomplish your goal. As we'll discuss more fully in part 2 of this book, it's also important to become aware of the words you use on a regular basis. For example, do you put yourself down or talk about the things you could never have or achieve? Your mind hears every word you speak, and, like a magnet, you'll ultimately attract the events and circumstances that correspond to your dominant beliefs. So, make sure to use positive words about yourself and your goals. Repetition is the key. Here are 2 more action steps to help you become more positive and get the results you want. Step 1. Every day, read some positive, uplifting literature. Find 15-30 minutes in the morning to do this, and it's also a good idea to do some reading right before bed. There are literally thousands of motivational books and articles to choose from. Read whatever speaks to you. It could be the Bible or other spiritual material, or perhaps inspiring biographies. You'll find a wide selection of success books in the psychology and self-improvement section of any bookstore or library, so check them out. Step 2. Every day, listen to motivational cassette tapes. You can listen to audio tapes in your car while commuting, at home, or during your exercise routine. The key is repetition. When you hear these messages over and over, they become part of you, and you begin to implement them to improve your life. The tapes will get you thinking about your attitude and other success principles on a daily basis. Of course, cassette tapes are not a substitute for action. It's up to you to put these ideas to work. Don't count on overnight success. Before concluding, I'd like to clarify a few things about positive thinking and the power of our thoughts. First of all, positive thinking doesn't mean that you'll achieve your goals overnight. It's not as if you start thinking about making more money, and the next morning you wake up and find a stack of dollar bills at your bedside. Not by a long shot. Success requires effort, commitment, and patience. And secondly, positive thinking doesn't mean you won't have any more problems. Believe me, you'll have plenty of setbacks along the way. However, if you continue to believe in yourself, take action, and persist, you'll overcome those obstacles. Remember, you are constantly moving in the direction of your dominant thoughts. Everything you achieve in your lifetime flows from your thoughts and beliefs. Negative thinking yields negative results, and positive thinking produces positive results. Keep your attitude window clean and bright so that the positive thoughts can come shining through. It simply makes no sense to think negative thoughts, unless you want to get negative results. And I know you don't want that to happen. So, from this point forward, choose your thoughts wisely and use this powerful principle to get fantastic results in your life. Lesson 3. Picture your way to success. You must first clearly see a thing in your mind before you can do it. In a recent television interview, singer Celine Dion was asked if she ever dreamed at the start of her career that someday she'd sell millions of records and be on tour, singing in front of tens of thousands of people each week. The singer replied that none of this surprised her, as she had pictured the whole thing since she was 5 years old. She was not bragging, and has worked unbelievably hard to earn every bit of her success. What she learned at an early age was her ability to tap into the power of holding a vivid, powerful image, to picture the star she wanted to become. World-class athletes also incorporate the power of imagery to reinforce in their mind exactly how they want to perform. Whether it's a figure skater completing a difficult jump, a tennis pro acing his opponent with a perfect serve, or a golfer driving the ball long and straight down the fairway, many top competitors mentally envision a successful outcome before actually achieving it in the real world. Visualization, however, is not something reserved solely for singers, athletes, or movie stars. In fact, it's something you've used since childhood to create the circumstances of your own life. Let me clarify what I mean. Visualization is often described as movies of the mind, inner pictures, or images. We all store pictures in our minds about the type of relationships we deserve, the degree of success we'll attain at work, the extent of our leadership ability, the amount of money we'll earn and accumulate, and so on. Mental movies from childhood. Where do these pictures come from? Well, we begin to develop our mental movies early in life. If we were criticized or felt unworthy as youngsters, we record the events and the feelings associated with those events as images in our minds. Because we frequently dwell on these pictures, both consciously and subconsciously, we tend to create life situations that correspond to the original image. For example, you may still hold a vibrant image of being criticized by a teacher in elementary school. You felt humiliated in front of the whole class. Later on, when you were tempted to offer your opinion in school or in a group of people, you held back and kept quiet. All the while remembering, even if only on a subconscious level, how painful it was when you were criticized. The picture remains in your mind and exerts tremendous influence over your present actions. Unfortunately, many of us have not updated or revised our childhood movies, so we're continually producing results that fall short of our full potential. What follows are some techniques for using the power of visualization to improve virtually every aspect of your life. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Picture your way to sales success. If you're involved in selling any product or service, it's vital that you see yourself succeeding on a consistent basis. If you're not getting the results you want, there's no question that you're holding on to pictures of sales mediocrity or sales disappointment, as opposed to sales success. Right now, think about your next meeting with a prospect. In your mind, how do you see the encounter? Are you confident and persuasive? Are you enthusiastically explaining the benefits of what you're offering? Is the prospect receptive and interested in what you're saying? Can you vividly see a successful outcome to your meeting? You have control over the pictures that occupy your mind. Remember that you're the producer, director, scriptwriter, lighting coordinator, costume designer, and casting director of your own mental movies. You get to choose how they turn out. Thinking about your goal and forming images in your mind will go a long way to creating the success you desire. However, when you also use a tangible representation of your goal, such as a check, your chances of success are even greater. Now, I'm not sharing this example simply because it's an interesting story about Jim Carrey. This same technique can work for you too. Why not tear out one of your checks right now and post-date it 3 or 5 years from now with the amount that you want to earn for services rendered? Make sure to look at that check at least once a day and believe that you're moving toward that goal, getting the job you want. You can use visual reminders to your advantage in a lot of ways. It's not limited to checks. Here's an example involving a friend of mine, who we'll call Robert Jones. Robert received his party's nomination for a judgeship, and he'll be on the ballot in an upcoming election. While Robert stands an excellent chance of winning this election and realizing his dream of becoming a judge, he's still a little nervous, and doubts creep into his mind now and again. I suggested to Robert that he make a handwrit 10 sign that reads Judge Robert Jones, and that he put that sign where he'll see it every day, for example on his nightstand and on the bathroom mirror. I also recommended that he write these words on a card he can carry in his wallet. If you can dream it, you can do it. While Robert could have formed strong mental images without the use of the sign, it has so much more power with the visual aid. The sign is a reminder to Robert to think about being a judge, and to run successful images through his mind. Of course, there are no guarantees that this will work for Robert, or that it will always work for you. But once you try this for yourself, I think you'll find that it's an incredibly powerful aid to help you get what you want. So, is there a position that you want to achieve? Sales manager, supervisor, attorney, owner of your own business? Whatever it is, create a visual aid and your mind will get to work to bring that picture into your life. It works both ways. Be very careful when using visual reminders. Some people use negative aids, and with very serious consequences. Bumper stickers offer a prime example. While riding in my car a few years ago, I noticed a bumper sticker on the car in front of me. The bumper sticker read, I-O, so off to work I go. In the last few years, I've seen this same bumper sticker over and over. It's obviously quite popular. Just a silly little rhyme, right? A harmless joke? Wrong. There's nothing funny or harmless about this message. When you put something like that on your car, you are programming your mind to keep you in debt. Think about someone who puts this bumper sticker on her car. We'll call her Alice. Every morning, Alice steps outside to greet the day and sees the statement, "I owe." When it's time to leave work, she goes back to her car and sees, "I owe." This idea will become embedded in her subconscious mind. She'll form mental pictures associated with being in debt. And, if you recall lesson 2, Alice will always attract what she thinks about most. In this case, she will attract lots and lots of debt. If you ask Alice why she never has enough money, she'll say that she has bad luck. The truth is, Alice is careless about what goes into her mind. The harmless little bumper sticker of today becomes your reality tomorrow. Alice is a perfect example of someone throwing more mud on an already dirty attitude window. If attitude is everything, then Alice's predominant attitude is, "I'm a debtor." With an attitude like that, what do you think her future will bring? Prosperity or more debt? We both know the answer to that question. Well, there you have it. Some suggestions for creating and benefiting from your own mental movies. Remember, if you don't take control and develop your own movies, you'll continue to replay the old ones. If the old movies are serving you, that's great. But if they're holding you back in any way, get started today and use the incredible power of your mind to picture your way to greater success. Lesson 4. Make a commitment, and you'll move mountains. What this power is, I cannot say. All I know is that it exists, and it becomes available only when a man is in that state of mind in which he knows exactly what he wants and is fully determined not to quit until he finds it. Alexander Graham Bell. I used to think I knew what commitment and persistence meant. Trying hard, making a lot of attempts. However, I didn't grasp the true meaning of these concepts until I read a small paperback book entitled The Ultimate Secret to Getting Absolutely Everything You Want by Mike Hernacki. Commitment is the essence of the ultimate secret. According to the author, the key to getting what you want is the willingness to do whatever it takes to accomplish your objective. Now, before your mind jumps to conclusions, let me add that in saying whatever it takes, I exclude all actions which are illegal, unethical, or which harm other people. So exactly what do I mean by this willingness? It's a mental attitude that says, if it takes 5 steps to reach my goal, I'll take those 5 steps. If it takes 55 steps to reach my goal, I'll take those 55 steps. If it takes 155 steps to reach my goal, I'll take those 155 steps. Of course, at the outset, you usually won't know exactly how many steps will be required to reach your goal. This doesn't matter. To succeed, all that's necessary is that you make a commitment to do whatever it takes, regardless of the number of steps involved. Where does persistence fit in? Persistent action follows commitment. That is, you first must be committed to something before you'll persist to achieve it. Once you've made a commitment to achieve your goal, then you'll follow through with relentless determination and action until you attain the desired result. The magic of commitment. When you make a commitment and are willing to do whatever it takes, you begin to attract the people and circumstances necessary to accomplish your goal. For instance, once you devote yourself to becoming, say, a best-selling author, you might suddenly bump into a literary agent or discover a television program offering advice on this very topic. It's not as if these resources never existed before. It's just that your mind never focused on finding them. Once you commit yourself to something, you create a mental picture of what it would be like to achieve it. Then, your mind immediately goes to work, like a magnet, attracting events and circumstances that will help bring your picture into reality. It's important to realize, however, that this is not an overnight process. You must be active and seize the opportunities as they appear. The magic which flows from commitment has never been more eloquently or more accurately described than in the following words by W.H. Murray. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. Effort only fully releases its reward after a person refuses to quit. All sorts of things occur to help one that would otherwise never have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamt would have come his way. Doors will open. Here's another miraculous feature of the power of commitment. You don't have to know at the outset how to achieve your goal. Sure, you'll be better off if you have a plan of attack, but it's not essential that every step be mapped out in advance. In fact, when you have the willingness to do whatever it takes, the right steps are often suddenly revealed to you. You'll meet people you never could have planned to meet. Doors will unexpectedly open for you. It might seem like luck or good fortune is smiling on you. In truth, you'll have created these positive events by making a commitment, and thus instructing your mind to look for them. With ordinary talent and extraordinary perseverance, all things are attainable. A word of caution. Before you get too excited about waltzing easily toward your goals, I caution you, even with a commitment, everything won't be rosy on your path.
Life will test you to see how serious you are about achieving your objective. Obstacles will arise. You'll make mistakes and suffer disappointments and setbacks, some of which may be quite severe and even tempt you to abandon your goal. That's when it becomes important to follow the sage wisdom of Winston Churchill, who said, "Never, never, never give up," or the advice provided by James J. Corbett, "You become a champion by fighting one more round." When things are tough, you fight one more round. If you've made a commitment to accomplish a goal, you can overcome temporary defeats, and you will triumph. One person with a commitment is worth more than 100 people who have only an interest. The rewards for those who persevere far exceed the pain that must precede the victory. Time to make a commitment now. Let's assume you have a goal in mind. The next question to ask yourself is, am I willing to do whatever it takes to achieve this goal? If your answer is, I'll do just about anything, except that I won't do ________, then frankly, you're not committed. And if you're not committed, it's likely that you'll be derailed and not achieve your objective. For instance, many people start a new business with this approach: I'll give it 6 months to prosper. If things don't work out after 6 months, I'll quit. This is not a mental attitude that leads to success. Where would novelist David Baldacci be if he had said, I'll try the writing for 1 year, and if I can't sell anything, I'll give it up? He'd have missed out on the opportunity to do what he loves, have financial independence, and live his dream. Now, I'm not suggesting that you just pull ahead without a plan and hope for the best. Of course, you should set timetables, deadlines, and budgets so you stay on course and succeed as quickly as possible. But the reality is, despite your most careful plans, you don't know how long it will take to achieve your goal, and you can't foresee all. Lesson 5. Turn your problems into opportunities. Every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. When faced with problems or setbacks in your life, what is your immediate reaction? If you're like most people, your first impulse is to complain. Why did this have to happen to me? What am I going to do now? My plans are ruined. This response is only natural. However, after the initial disappointment wears off, you have a choice to make. You can either wallow in misery and dwell on the negative aspects of your situation, or you can find the benefit or lesson that the problem is offering. Yes, you'll probably face a period of uncertainty or struggle, but there's always a flip side to the difficulty. You see, a problem is often not a problem at all. It may actually be an opportunity. For instance, a problem may point out an adjustment you can make to improve certain conditions in your life. Without the problem, you never would have taken this positive action. For example, you probably know or have heard about someone who lost his or her job and then went on to start a successful business. Often, that person will tell you that if he or she hadn't been laid off, the new business would never have been started. What started as an adversity ended up as a golden opportunity. How about the times you were absolutely convinced that a particular job was perfect for you? You had a great interview and just couldn't wait for the offer. But the offer never came, someone else got the job. You were devastated. Days or months later, a new job came along, and you realized that the first position was much less desirable than the one that came along later. The earlier rejection was, in fact, a blessing. Another example is the deal on the dream house which falls through only to be replaced by something even better. Finding the benefit. The New York Times printed an essay, Is There Meaning to a Brain Tumor? written by a 40-year-old woman named Sharon who was told that she had a large tumor behind her left eye. The tumor was surgically removed in a 6-hour operation. Fortunately, it was benign. Can you imagine someone finding a host of benefits in this frightening situation? According to Sharon, there have been many positives. Sharon was deeply touched by the outpouring of help and support the community gave to her and her family during this crisis. People in the community, some of whom were only acquaintances, provided evening meals for her husband and their children. Her friends made arrangements for her house to be cleaned. Sharon learned about the human capacity for kindness and for helping others in time of need. Having confronted the fragility of her own life, Sharon now says that she developed a more positive attitude and is eager to accomplish the goals she set while lying in her hospital bed. She also has developed a closer, more meaningful relationship with her brother and sister. As Sharon explained, it took a personal misfortune for her to see how good life can be. She has gained a new appreciation and zest for living by overcoming a trying and difficult experience. How adversity serves us. At this point, let's examine 7 ways in which adversity can serve us. 1. Adversity gives us perspective. Once you've recovered from a life-threatening illness, a flat tire or a leaky roof doesn't seem so troubling anymore. You're able to rise above the petty annoyances of daily living and focus your attention on the truly important things in your life. 2. Adversity teaches us to be grateful. Through problems and difficulties, especially those which involve loss or deprivation, you develop a deeper appreciation for many aspects of your life. It's trite but true, you don't usually appreciate something until it's taken away from you. When you have no hot water, you suddenly value hot water. Not until you're sick do you cherish good health. The wise person continues to dwell on blessings, even after the period of loss or deprivation has passed. Remember, we're always moving in the direction of our dominant thoughts. Therefore, concentrating on what you have to be grateful for brings better things into your life. 3. Adversity brings out our hidden potential. After surviving a difficult ordeal or overcoming an obstacle, you emerge emotionally stronger. Life has tested you and you were equal to the task. Then, when the next hurdle appears, you're better equipped to handle it. Problems and challenges bring out the best within us. We discover abilities we never knew we possessed. Many of us would never have discovered these talents if life hadn't made us travel over some bumpy ground. Adversity reveals to you your own strengths and capacities, and beckons you to develop those qualities even further. 4. Adversity encourages us to make changes and take action. Most people cling to old, familiar patterns regardless of how boring or painful their lives have become. It often takes a crisis or a series of difficulties to motivate them to make adjustments. Problems are often life's way of letting you know that you're off course and need to take corrective action. 5. Adversity teaches us valuable lessons. Take the example of a failed business venture. The entrepreneur may learn something that enables him or her to succeed spectacularly on the next venture. 6. It opens a new door. A relationship terminates and you go on to a more satisfying relationship. You lose your job and find a better one. In these instances, the problem is not a problem at all, but rather an opportunity in disguise. One door in your life has been shut, but there is a better one waiting to be opened. 7. Adversity builds confidence and self-esteem. When you muster all of your courage and determination to overcome an obstacle, you feel competent and gain confidence. You have a greater feeling of self-worth and you carry these positive feelings into subsequent activities. Look for the positive. Sure, you'll have your share of problems and adversities in life. I'm not suggesting that when tragedy strikes you deny your emotions or refuse to face reality. What I am saying is don't immediately judge your situation as a tragedy and dwell on how bad off you are. Sometimes you won't be able to instantly spot the benefit that will come from being in your situation. But it does exist. You always have a choice. You can view your problems as negative and become gloomy and depressed about them. Let me assure you this approach will only make things worse. Or, you can see every seemingly negative experience in your life as an opportunity. As something you can learn from ... as something you can grow from. Believe it or not, your problems are there to serve you, not to destroy you. So, the next time you suffer a problem or setback in your life, don't get discouraged or give up. Don't let problems cloud your attitude window forever. Clear off that cloudy window. You may find, after the dust settles, that you can actually see better than you did before. Just remember the words of Napoleon Hill: every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. Continually ask yourself what you've learned from your trying experience and focus on moving forward and growing as a person. In times of crisis, always strive to maintain an optimistic attitude and an open mind, for this is the environment that will allow you to find the benefit in your difficulty. Part 2. Watch your words. Repeat anything often enough and it will start to become you. Lesson 6. Your words blaze a trail. The words you consistently select will shape your destiny. When was the last time you seriously thought about the words you use each and every day? How carefully do you select them? Now, you might be thinking, Jeff, why all this fuss about words? What's the big deal? The answer is simple. Your words have incredible power. They can build a bright future, destroy opportunity, or help maintain the status quo. Your words reinforce your beliefs ... and your beliefs create your reality. Think of this process as a row of dominoes that looks like this: thoughts, words, beliefs, actions, results. Here's how it works. Tom has a thought, such as I'm not very good when it comes to sales. Now, let's remember that he doesn't have this thought only once. Oh, no. He's run it through his mind on a regular basis, maybe hundreds or thousands of times in his life. Then, Tom starts to use words that support this thought. He says to his friends and colleagues, I'm never going to do very well in sales, or I just hate making sales calls or approaching prospects. Here again, Tom repeats these phrases over and over ... in his self-talk and in his discussions with others. This, in turn, strengthens his beliefs, and it's at this stage where the rubber really meets the road. You see, everything that you'll achieve in your life flows from your beliefs. So, in our sales example, Tom develops the belief that he's not going to be successful in sales and that he won't earn much money. This becomes embedded in his subconscious mind. What can possibly flow from that belief? Because Tom doesn't believe in his sales ability, he takes very little action, or he takes actions that aren't productive. He doesn't do the things that would be necessary to succeed in sales. Words are, of course, the most powerful drug used by mankind. Rudyard Kipling. And then, quite predictably, Tom gets very poor results. To make matters worse, Tom then starts to think more negative thoughts. Repeat more negative words ... reinforce negative beliefs. And get even more negative results. It's a vicious cycle. Of course, this whole process could have had a very happy ending if Tom had selected positive thoughts and reinforced them with positive words. In turn, he'd reinforce the belief that he's successful in sales. As a result, Tom would take the actions consistent with that belief and wind up with outstanding results. My point is, don't underestimate the role of your words in this process. People who feed themselves a steady diet of negative words are destined to have a negative attitude. It's a simple matter of cause and effect. You can't keep repeating negative words and expect to be a high achiever. And that's because negative words will always lead to the reinforcement of negative beliefs and eventually to negative outcomes. Why you don't want me to fix anything in your home when it comes to home repairs? I'm lost. You want me to replace a faucet or fix something in the toilet tank? I'd have a better chance of reaching the top of Mount Everest. Carpentry or electrical wiring? I haven't got a clue. You want to know my ultimate Achilles heel? It's those instruction sheets that explain how to assemble something that you've just taken out of the box. You know what I mean, those black and white booklets with references to figure 1OA that show you or claim to show you where all the nuts and bolts go ... and how all the parts fit together. Instruction sheets have the same effect on me as kryptonite had on Superman. If you recall the old Superman programs, the villain would shoot bullets at Superman, and the bullets bounced off his chest harmlessly. But there was one substance that Superman could not defend against: kryptonite.
Allow me to suggest a few guidelines in this area, with the understanding that there are no hard and fast rules, and you should do what works best for you. To begin with, use positive self-talk as often as possible. In my view, the more the merrier. After all, you're talking to yourself, so you don't have to worry about others hearing your comments. The key is that you hear this positive input again and again, and it becomes deeply rooted in your subconscious mind. Whether to share your goals with other people is a much trickier issue. One thing I've learned is this: Never discuss your goals with negative people. All they'll do is argue and point out all the reasons why you won't be successful. Who needs that? Often, these negative Nellies are the ones who do little or nothing in their own lives. They have no goals or dreams, and they don't want anyone else to succeed either. Yet there are some instances when you can benefit by telling others about your goals. First of all, make sure that you're speaking with someone who's extremely positive and totally supportive of your efforts. This should be the kind of person who would be absolutely delighted if you achieve this goal, and would do anything in his or her power to assist you. You may have a friend or colleague that fits this role, or certain family members. It's also important to share your goals with others who are working with you to achieve that outcome. For example, if a sales manager wants to increase sales in the coming year by 20%, he or she would make this goal known to everyone on the staff. Then, everyone can work together to achieve it. Even though I'm encouraging you to use positive words to move you toward your objectives, I'm not suggesting that you ignore the obstacles that you may face, or that you discourage feedback from other people. Before embarking on any goal, you want to prepare for what may be coming down the road. Personally, I prefer to discuss those issues with someone who is positive, someone whose feedback includes creative solutions to the difficulties that may arise. Furthermore, I'll only discuss my plans with people who are qualified to render an intelligent opinion on the subject. If you're thinking of going into your own business, it simply makes no sense to consult with your Uncle Elmer, especially if Uncle Elmer is negative and worked for someone else all of his life. What does he know about owning a business? He'll give you a list of reasons not to go into business for yourself. After your little chat with Uncle Elmer, you'll start to doubt yourself. You don't need that kind of help. Words and accountability. There's another reason why, in some cases, you might decide to share your goal with someone else, and that's for accountability. In other words, if I tell others I'm going to do something, then I have to go ahead and do it. Think of this approach as burning your bridges. Let me assure you, I'm not a believer in burning bridges when it comes to personal or business relationships. But sometimes the only way to move forward in life, and to achieve an ambitious goal, is to cut off all avenues of retreat. This can be a very useful strategy. We may tell a friend that we're going to work out at the gym 3 times this week, knowing that at the end of the week, this friend will ask whether we did, in fact, go to the gym 3 times. An even more dramatic example is that of well-known motivational speaker Zig Ziglar. Ziglar decided to go on a diet and reduce his weight from 202 pounds to 165 pounds. At the same time, he was writing his book, See You at the Top. In the book, Ziglar included a statement that he got his weight down to 165 pounds. This was 10 months before the book went to press. And then he placed an order with the printer for 25,000 copies. Now, remember, at the time he wrote these words, Ziglar actually weighed 202. He put his credibility on the line with 25,000 people. The people who always talk about a lack of money generally don't accumulate much of it. By including a statement that he weighed 165 pounds, Ziglar knew that he had to lose 37 pounds before the book was printed. And he did. Use this strategy selectively. Limit it to those goals that are very important to you, and where you're committed to go the distance. Is it risky? You bet it is. But it's a tremendous motivator. Words and emotions. In his best-selling book Awaken the Giant Within, Anthony Robbins devotes an entire chapter to the way in which our vocabulary affects our emotions, our beliefs, and our effectiveness in life. I don't agree with all of Robbins' philosophies, but his observations about the power of words are right on the mark. Robbins is keenly aware of how certain words impact our emotional intensity. For instance, let's say that someone has lied to you. You could react by saying that you're angry or upset. If, however, you use the words furious, livid, or enraged, your physiology and your subsequent behavior would be dramatically altered. Your blood pressure would rise, your face would turn beet red, you'd feel tense all over. Choose words that will point you in the direction of your goals. On the other hand, what if you characterized the situation as annoying, or said that you were peeved? This lowers your emotional intensity considerably. In fact, saying that you are peeved, explains Robbins, will probably make you laugh and break the negative emotional cycle completely. You'd be much more relaxed. Robbins gives other examples of how you can lower the intensity of negative emotions. Imagine, for instance, replacing I've been destroyed with I've been set back, or using the phrase I prefer instead of I hate. Of course, you can also intentionally select words to heighten positive emotions. Instead of saying I'm determined, why not say I'm unstoppable? Or, in place of declaring that you feel okay, try I feel phenomenal. Or, I feel just tremendous. Juicy, exciting words like that lift your spirits to a high, or level, and profoundly influence those around you. When you consciously decide to use such terms, you're actually choosing to change the path on which you've been traveling. Others will respond to you differently, and you'll alter your perception of yourself as well. Fortunately, you can control your words, which means that you have the ability to build a positive belief system and to produce the results you want. The first step is awareness. Let's examine the phrases you've been using in 4 key areas of your life: relationships, finances, career, and health.